Work on ArtStation. Nice. Want me to check it out? I can check it out. Tomorrow is Independence Day in India. Interesting. Nice. I did not know about that. What's your artist name over there, Grumpeldump? Or how can I look it up? We should be... Are we live on YouTube as well? Guys, can you hear me on YouTube? Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello. I see Jolanda, Hassan, Abdul, Pratamesh, Mali. What's up, guys? Hello, hello. Smooth Trooper 98. I don't see it. Let me look in ArtStation. Yeah, no, I'm. Oh, there you go, John Reeves. That should make. Nice. Yep, I can see it now. Yeah, cool stuff, man. Cool stuff. Here, I'll show you. We're not doing portfolio review today, so don't start asking questions, okay? This is just just as a little occasion here for our good friend Grumpeldump, because he mentioned that this is the first time he posted on ArtStation, okay? So just yeah, it's just a quickie. It's just a quickie. Nice, nice. It kind of reminds me of the what's the word of the Hades look, right? Are you going for something like that? I'm guessing you're using some shader stuff, right? For this kind of like construction here, or did you hand paint this? Oh, it's kind of like a mix of both, actually. When I see the concept, I'll see why. Oh, there you go. Yeah, no, you nailed the concept, man. Yeah, you nailed it. Oh, I love the fire animation. Good stuff. Yeah, I think you nailed the concept, man. Really good. I mean, it's a very particular art style, right? But it's very, very good. Personally, this is just nitpicking, right? This is just nitpicking. Personally, I would add a little bit of a gradient on some of the elements to go from light to dark, right? To give it just a little bit more depth. Or although you could do something like this maybe inside of the render engine with a little bit of like ambient occlusion, multiplying against all of the colors, so that we get just a little bit more depth. But that's just again, it's nitpicky. And another nitpicky thing is the what's the word? The fire. I would change it so that it's way brighter, because right now it looks a little bit muddy, and and as you can see, well, what's the word? The flames could go way higher. I'm not sure if you are using, instead of Blender, let me show you guys, because it's a small little thing that you guys can do. No, it's not portfolio review. It's not portfolio review, but our good friend Grumpeldump on Twitch mentioned that it's the first piece that he's doing. So in the couple of minutes that we wait for everyone else to join, I was just looking at it. But no, portfolio review, remember guys, we're gonna have portfolio review at the end of the month, so that's gonna be on the 28th. Okay, so 28th of this month, that's when we will have portfolio review. So let me see if I have a scene or something here that we can use. Yeah, let's try this one. I mean, it's not the greatest one, but it's not the greatest because I don't have the what's the word? I don't have the textures loaded in here. I'll explain how to do portfolio review in just a second, Cami. Okay, So give me just 1 second. So here's the thing, guys. Let's say we go here to color and we add a very simple like environment texture, right? Inside of what's the word? A blender, and then we're gonna look for an EXR. Do I have an EXR? Let's see, EXR. There you go. Grab this farm road right here. Right, so we now can go to, of course, render view, and we can go to our render, change from EB to cycles, so that we get the most sort of like realistic rendering that we can, and we can change from CPU in this case to GPU to get like some better performance. So this right here that you guys are seeing, this right here is like a very basic like ray trace render, right, for the whole thing. 1 second, I feel like the music is way too loud. There we go, much better. Let me know now if the music is way too low. So this is just a basic sort of like situation right here with the light. If we were to add another light, let's say we add another light, and we'll do a very simple like spotlight here. And what I want to do is I want to get to a very sort of like bright spot here on the element. So I'm going to lower the intensity of my background to something like 0.2. And then I'm going to let this light be the, what's the word? The main source of like a light here on my scene. So let's push this here. And let's go to the light properties and change the exposure to something like 15. 15 might be a little bit too much. Let's try 10. Still too much. Let's try 8. Still too much. Let's try 5. There you go. So here's what I want you guys to look at or to see. Can you see how we have really bright spots here on the top of the element? There are tone mappers or things that we can do to modify that, and I'll be able to show this. Like, don't do a short about this, Alan, because this is like a horrible prop, but it might not be a bad idea to do a short about this topic later on. So if we go to the render settings, by default, in the color management side of things, Blender is using this view display called the AGX view display. And AGX is a specific color management algorithm or like whatever that changes the way colors are perceived on the screen. If you want to see the basic standard thing, you need to change, of course, to standard. But as you can see in the standard approach, the lights are going to really like expose the colors way too much, and it looks way too bright, so it doesn't look as filmic or as natural, right? So that's a standard for you. AGX I really like because it tends to dull things a little bit. It tends to reduce the exposure of the lights. It sort of like crunches or moves the highlights down a little bit, so that even if the light is really intense, we can still appreciate some of the detail. It's quite nice, right? But the problem with this is that really bright elements are not captured properly. So if you have like a really bright element like the fire, the way we're seeing in our friend's portfolio piece a couple of minutes ago, that's the problem with what's the word? That's the problem with AGX. It tends to dull things out, especially very bright things. So I personally prefer to use sometimes Aces. Aces keeps that sort of like contrasty, punchy look, and it keeps the highlights a little bit higher while still giving you like a really like intense contrast. If it's too much of a contrast, there's a couple of things that you can do. So we have, for instance, I believe in Aces 1.3. No, that one's not that good. Or actually, we can go back to AGX, but then on the looks, there's a couple of like different looks. For instance, we have the punchy one, or we have, for instance, the let's say like medium high contrast, right? So my advice, especially if you're using again like really glowy things, try to play around with some of these elements and the color management transforms, because again, especially with really bright or really hot surfaces that tend to expose or have like really high levels of brightness, they can like crunch things back. Okay, so yeah, like that would be, again, it's just nitpicking, Grumble Dump, for this piece right here, but I just feel like the fire is looking a little bit too dull. Another option you could try is see if the shader that you're using just for the flames could be set to something like unlit. That way, it's not going to be, well, affected by light, right? And therefore, there's not going to be any need for you to adjust any of these things, because it's just going to be the pure color that you painted. Abe, it's been a while since you made a video or course for people pursuing film cinematics. When are we getting some love? Mustafa. So that's a good question. Unfortunately, well, that's not my specialty, right? So I'm not entirely sure if what's the word, if I could make a course about that. When I did it on the other company, it was because I was asked to, and it's very similar, I would say, in processes. The only main difference, especially for us as modelers, texture artists, and shader artists or material artists, is the fact that when you're doing things for games and or one of the difference between things for games and for, actually, let me start that over. So let's go full camera. When thinking about what's the difference between game assets and movie assets or film assets, it usually, in my opinion, comes down to three main factors. First, the poly count, right? For games, you usually tend to optimize things quite a bit, especially if you're going to do things like mobile games or games that are going to be running on a device that needs a lot of like raw power, and you can't have like millions of polygons or nanite, like, right, with Unreal. So poly count is going to be one of them. In film or in commercial work, you usually will be working with what is known as the subdivision workflow process, right? Where you want pretty much everything to be squares so that you can use things like displacement so that things can be like smoothed out at render time. And that changes a couple of things, especially, for instance, on the retopology process for some props or for some characters. The second thing that is very important is the texture space, right? Like the amount of texture resolution that you can have in games. Again, we tend to optimize. So assets, most of the time, are going to have 2K maps. Sometimes they're going to have 4K maps. In film, you can have like tens or like, I don't know. Yeah, in film, you can have such as like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 different UDIMs, like 2K UDIMs, right? For a single asset, if you need like a really like intense close-up of the element and you want to have like the best quality possible. And finally, in the rendering side of things, when you're doing things for games, you need things to be running really, really fast at real time and usually at 60 FPS, right? For film or commercial work, you can wait or throw that into a like traditional render and wait for all of the renders to take, I don't know, like several minutes per frame so that you can get specifically what you need. So those are like the three main differences that you're going to see from games and from film. Of course, there's like specific modeling techniques or workflows, specific shaders or things that you might need to use. But here's the thing, the line between both is blurring quite a bit. Like, there's commercials nowadays that are being done inside of Unreal. There's even some like short films, and I'm not sure if movies yet, but at least like not super big ones, right? But there are productions that are using Unreal as their main sort of like engine to do the whole thing. And even though you don't get like perfect like 60 FPS like development, right? You still get access to a bunch of different tools that are pretty cool. So I think, especially again for us as artists, the line or the difference between one type of work and the other is not that intense anymore. Yes, there are specific workflows that you need to look for, but usually it's very similar. Okay, so hopefully that information helps you guys. Hey, wake up here, David on the house. What's up, my friend? What is up? What are we planning for this stream? We're gonna be doing some Zbrush. I just want to sculpt. Haven't sculpted in all week, man. Sculpted a little bit with one of my students, but I haven't been able to do that. How to fight against free time gaming versus sculpt learning? We love both, still fighting for years. Hard. So that's a great question. You just need to be very mindful about your priorities. I know it sounds very like obvious when you say it like that, but you need to be what's the word? You need to be a little bit mindful about your priorities. That's it. Like, you can do both. You can play games. I play games. I've been playing Pokopia with my kid. I've been playing Pokemon TCGD, the card game. I've been playing what else? Tears of Metal with my brother. I've been playing a little bit of what was I playing the other day? I downloaded Fire Emblem Three Houses again. What else? Yeah, so it's a little bit of that, right? So I do play games. But I do that on my free time, right? I do that after I finish my work, after I've done all of the things that I need to do to keep, well, this project moving forward, to pay for my bills, like all that kind of stuff. Am I sounding a little bit down? I'm tired. I mentioned I was playing Pokemon yesterday. I went to a small tournament here, local one, and I came back at like 12 a.m. Like, it was a long tournament, so I'm a little bit tired. I didn't get enough sleep. That's it. Did you open the community bots? Yes, yes. So for those of you that are not aware, before we jump into Zbrush, last week we closed the event for the Call to Adventure contest that we're doing here in our channel, and we do have the community pick open. So if you go to our Discord channel and you go here to community pick, our good friend David here managed to link all of the more than, I think, 185 submissions here, and you can just go here and click on as many of these ones as you want. So if there's one that you like, you just click on the little fire icon, and that's it. Who is gonna win? Whoever gets the most votes. Remember, and this is in the rules, that if the winner of the community vote is the same winner as the winner, or are like the same winners from the judges vote, these will trickle down. So at the end, we're gonna have 6 unique winners. Okay, you cannot win 2 times on both sides. So either you win on one side or you win on the other. The only exception is if you, let's say for instance, won 2nd place on the judges side and you won 1st place on the community pick. What's gonna happen is on the community pick you are gonna win the 1st prize, right? Because that's the bigger prize, and on the judges pick you're gonna drop down. So whatever, like if you win on multiple categories, you are gonna get the win that is the highest on any of the categories. Okay, so this is, again, like all of this is right here, so you guys can join into, again, like the community pick and just like vote for your favorite ones. You can vote on as many as you want. There's no limit. Of course, we are taking a look at things like people like cheating or whatever, so be like, don't cheat, please. We will find out and you will be banned, so don't do that. And Mario Onofre, what's up, my friend? Welcome. And yeah, so this one's open. For those that are wondering about portfolio review, I know that's another question that we have is when is this gonna happen? How can I submit for portfolio review? It's very simple. It's gonna happen at the end of the month, close to my birthday, so it's gonna be on the 28th. So in 2 weeks we're gonna have that, and roughly in this final week between the 24th and the 27th, we will open a channel here in the showcase section where it says portfolio review. We're gonna open a post like this, a small little post. Well, right now it's not loading. There you go, it's loading now. So we're gonna open a post very similar to this. There's gonna be some rules, and once you see that the post is open, you can submit. That's it. Yeah, we've had that happen before, Maxtrack. We've had bots. We can very quickly identify who the bots are, and we can quickly eliminate those bots. So again, don't even bother. Don't spend your money on that. Congrats on another successful contest. You are welcome. Actually, I have a message from our good friend Dave right here that just told me that he just finished doing the scores for his scorecard, and he said it was a really tough decision. So yeah, it has been a great contest. We're really happy with the results, guys. I hope you enjoyed the process as well. Anyone who participated and anyone who watched it, of course. And we will have more contests. We want to have more stuff soon. Probably not this year, but hopefully early next year. Okay, let's see. I was wondering if you're planning to release a visualization course from Unreal Engine similar to the one you made for Maya. Yes, there is a plan to do an environment course for Unreal. However, the what's the word? The syllabus and all that kind of stuff, I'm still working on it because I think it might be necessary to split the course into 2 parts. I haven't done that yet on our site. I've done that before and it worked. So I think we are gonna have to split that course into 2 parts. There's gonna be one part for the asset generation side of things, and there's gonna be another part for the engine integration side of things, because it's a lot of information. Otherwise, we're gonna have like a massive course. The top 30, yes, we have the top 30. I'm not going to show you the top 30, my friends. I'm not going to have you or show you the top 30, but yes, we have the top 30. It was a very tough pick. We were even thinking about expanding it to like top 40 or something, but it was just like way too much. So yeah, we have the top 30. Some like it was a tough call, but we're happy with the selection there. Let's see. When we do the retopology, do we need to cover all the details, or can we cover for the overall? It depends, like in a multi-branch trunk. So if you're doing a trunk, you probably do want to cover like anything that changes silhouette. You gotta do it. Go Lotus, yes, I did see your message. Sorry. It says I got the job. I got the editor job at the same time as working in the junior animation at for a Fortnite YouTuber. Yeah, there you go, man. Always learning, always improving. I'm glad you got the job. I am glad, and yes, as I've mentioned before, guys, anything that you can do to start your career is always a good option. When I started out, I was doing architectural renders, I was doing product renders, I was doing like some, let's say, basics things, right? Like basic 3D things. But that's how you get your foot in the door. There's no other way. Does the Unreal course will cover the basics and how to present stuff in it and make a well? Let's see. Yeah, of course. Of course. Lamanda Stone says, I'm a new member and a 3D modeling student at Osuit. I was curious if you ever have time to help with whips. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I do offer mentorship sessions, my friend. You can reach out to me on Discord and I can share more of that information. I actually have one student that I need to answer. But yeah, I do that. I teach at Think Tank. I'm a mentor at Think Tank Training Center. I teach at schools over here. And if you want, you can always just send your questions there on the whip channels on our Discord channel. And we can help you out as well. No, I have not tried plasticity. David, how have we reached out to them? I feel like we've tried reaching out to them to see if they want to do like a collaboration or something, but we haven't. I'm not sure if we haven't heard back from them or what, but yeah, this is a software that I really want to try for like hard surface stuff, because I've seen people do like really complex things very, very easily, right? And the cool thing is you can then just retopo this or take this into Zbrush and add some details. Like there's other like things. So I really want to test it. How expensive this is? I know I can try for free, but how much is the license? Yeah, it's not that bad. 175 is not that bad. Is it permanent? Seems like it's permanent. What's the difference with this one? Studio. Node lock to machines. Step Aegis. Oh, it has a couple of extra ones. All brush numbers include for 12 months, including major with the for 12 months. Blender bleach. Okay, that has some cool things if you get the studio one. Oh, okay. So technically you do need this one if you want to have like the best one. Will there be a detailed breakdown criticism of the 30 live? No, I don't think so. I don't think we will do that, to be honest. Like we've already talked about them during last stream, right? We went through all of them. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna do that, but we're gonna have a special video showcasing them, of course. When are you going to make a modeling stream? We've made modeling streams before. Actually, today we're gonna be doing a retopo stream. So I promise you guys we were going to be doing some cleanup on this character right here. You remember this guy? So I want to show you some techniques that we can do to get like a little bit of a cleaner surface here. I think that's going to be a fun one. Zbrush? No, Zbrush. Right now I want to keep things inside of Zbrush. So let's start by cleaning things up here a little bit on this guy, because as you can see, it's a little bit messy. It's not like the messiest like shape ever, but it's a little bit messy. So it might be a good idea to start cleaning this up. This is a very common workflow, by the way, for hard surface stuff. You start with a basic sort of like blocking of a shape like this one right here, and then you need to go through a retopology process. Like if you want to have like really tight, really clean meshes, you do need to go through a retopology process. I'm not entirely loving this guy's though, so I'm gonna remove it. I want to keep like a clean. There you go. That's a little bit better. Let's see, how much difference is there between plasticity and Substance 3D Modeler? I have not tried Substance 3D Modeler, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. But from what I understand, I think Substance 3D Modeler is a little bit more like Boolean oriented, and plasticity seems to be a little bit closer to like CAD modeling. So back in the day, if you wanted to do like hard surface stuff, some artists would pick Rhino as their option to do the hard surface things. Just because Rhino is, again, like a CAD software. CAD softwares are the types of softwares that people use in actual construction, what's the word, actual constructions, like companies and industries, right? So if you're, I don't know, like John Deere, right, like making tractors or whatever, you will be using, there you go, functional modeling. You're going to be doing or using those kind of like things to create like all of the pieces, all of the parts, prototype things. Like it's like that's actually real work. Not that our work's not real, but we are in charge of doing things that look cool, not necessarily things that look functional, right? So that will be the main difference. Yeah, exactly. Engineers use that one or those kind of things like quite frequently. Also don't like this shape right here. The reason why I don't like some of the shapes is they're too sharp. I'm probably gonna like bevel them like that. There you go. There you go. Okay. We're gonna have this division. So I'm trying to think about like the paneling, right? Like where are the panels going? And we're gonna be dividing the panels there. We're probably gonna using some boolean. And once we have a good idea of where the panels are going to be, we can start polishing them and cleaning them up. When I do retopo, I do it by stringing planes by plane, but I have to admit that I always drive me crazy when the model is very detailed. The magnet tool in Maya pulls me to those details. Yeah, so again, you got to be smart about where things are going to go. So for instance, in this particular asset, not every single thing that it's model do we need to retopo, because we can always bake this down. Like I'm already thinking about like the texturing process for this asset. And if there's going to be some texturing involved, then I can try to figure out, okay, do I actually need to model this thing? Like with actual geometry, or is this thing something that doesn't change the silhouette and therefore can be modeled independently? There you go. That looks a lot better. Okay, so let's start with this. Let's start modeling this piece right here. Okay, so as you guys know, in last year they added the retopo brushes here instead of Zbrush. And the way the retopo brushes work is you click on the object and we're going to convert this into a new mesh, and boom, we got this. So now we're going to be able to retopo this. This is the kind of stuff where knowledge about retopology, of course, is very important, right? Because we wanna keep things as clean as possible and follow a specific like path and a specific like direction. So for instance, here I'm gonna start creating my planes, and if I want to have this like sharp corner or sharp point, I need to make sure that there's an edge loop so like supporting that direction, right? So this whole shape is going to be going in like this direction right here. Could we use things like series mesh or other tools? Sure. Like remember, there's always multiple ways to get to the like same result, but you always should ask yourself which tool is good for this part of the process right now. Because not every tool is for everything. In this case, because I do want to have like a very clean or like sharp low poly. This is already going to be like the low poly that I'm going to be using eventually for texturing. So because of that, I do want to have a little bit more control than usual. Now, here is a very important rule about retopology. Can you see that corner right there? Like this guy right here? If I want that corner to be a sharp corner, then I need to not loop around. I need to do something like this. I need to let the loop sort of like move forward or move up like this, so that when I smooth this out, in this case Zbrush or any software for that matter knows that that's a sharp corner. Sometimes you might want to have a smooth corner, and in those cases, well, the topology flow is going to be a little bit different. But in this particular case, that's the topology flow that I want, because I want to have that like as a sharp corner. Okay, we can always, of course, use things like creasing and other elements, right? Too. So all of those are good options. Now, I'm not gonna do this extrusion here, because I feel like that's something that we can do with, well, extrusion. So I'm gonna keep this as a flat plane for now, and let's see if that works the way I intend this to work. Same principle here, right? Like I don't want to create a what's the word? I don't want to create a smooth turn right there. So I'm gonna be very careful on where I place my points, so that I can follow the shape and drive the result that I want. Okay. I might combine this with a little bit of Maya, to be honest, once we go into like a more advanced like blocking stage for this piece. But I really like the retopo tool here inside of Zbrush. It's really good. Watching retopo is always satisfying. Yeah, we got like a very heated debate the other day, because I uploaded a short about another workflow that does not involve retopo. The topology police got angry, man. Like we got like a lot of heated like comments there. But yeah, I love doing this as well. Like all of this are perfectly fine. So for instance, all of this, it's a flat area. So having a couple of like squares and things that go in this direction is fine too. The Retopo tool on iPad is crazy good. You mean here for this one or the other software, Becca Draw? Here we can press Alt. Oh man, I always forget about the shortcut. God, what's the shortcut? Shift, no. Control, no. Alt, no. Alt, Control? Man. What is the shortcut? Space. Space. Space is the shortcut to add another edge loop right there. Yes, in Zbrush, yeah. Do you ever have a fear, even after many years of experience, that if you don't use a certain program every so often, that you will forget how to use a lot of it? I'm aware. Yes and no. Of course, you get rusty, right? Like if you don't use something, you do get rusty. I'm gonna be honest. I do use my own tutorials and my own videos every now and then. For instance, every time I need to do displacement maps, right, from Zbrush to another software, I'll look up the tutorials that I've done about this process because I never can remember like what was the exact value and things like that that I need to use. So it's fine. Like, thankfully, we live in again like in a day and age where all of this information is readily available. So as long as you don't forget what tool you need to use, even if you forget where the tool is or whatever, you can quickly or relatively quickly get back to it, right? So it should not be that big of an issue. And I do forget about stuff. Like, it's very, very common. Like, for instance, I haven't done any, like, Unreal Engine programming in a while. I normally use, like, blueprints for that kind of stuff, and I haven't done, like, absolutely anything. So I know that the next time that I need to do it, I'm going to have to watch a couple of tutorials, remind myself of some of the processes and workflows. But as long as you have, the general idea, it's like you should be able to remember that relatively quickly. Let's see. I've been doing low poly model for a project I'm part of, but I would like to be able to make more complex models, hard surface, I believe. Is there any practice you suggest? Yes. So if you want to practice anything, guys, anything, and I have that video, right? Like the one that's called how to pick a project. We'll always use that. But here, let me give you an example. Hard surface modeling, right? So if I look for hard surface prop concepts 2D. You're going to find some information, right? You're going to be able to find some things. My advice is, if you're just starting out, like this is like the first couple of models that you're doing, do not try to do like super complex things like this, right? Like this leg. You're going to go crazy. It's not going to look that great. And that sort of like failure is going to make you feel really bad. And it's just going to be difficult to keep like the motivation up, right? But also don't go for like super simple props and try to do, I don't know, like, let me see if I can find something. Like people do grenades and things like that all the time, like a very simple like fragmentation grenade. I don't recommend that. The kind of stuff that I recommend is more like this, right? So like this is perfect. That little cassette player. It's going to take you a while. It's not going to be an easy one, but it should teach you some cool information about how to do proper topology, how to do proper bevels, how to do, again, like proper subdivision workflows, things like that, right? Like, there's another great example. Like, something like this is a really good hard surface prop to work with that's going to teach you a lot of like, the basics. Once you have a good understanding of something like that, then, of course, the next thing you can try is something a little bit more advanced. Maybe you'll try doing like a helmet like this, which is not super easy, by the way. But you move on to like a more advanced one, and that's how you can do it, right? Like you start with something relatively simple, and the more expertise you have, the better you can become at like doing this kind of things. So if you're trying to learn again like hard surface modeling, I would not start with something like this. Like this is way too complex for something that that you're just learning about. But it's all about practice, right? Hey Abe, I have a question for you. Do you model characters, environments, or any props the same way as I model with basic block outlet, major landmarks, then medium details, and then model? Yeah, that's usually my approach. Nothing weird about that, my friend. Like that's a very valid and very common approach. So if you ask me if that's the approach that I follow, maybe not for every single asset, right? But it is like that seems about right. Here, as you can see, guys, I'm adding another edge loop. And the reason why I want to add another edge loop is because I want to have that corner right there. Hard surface is all about like the silhouette and how you modify that. Now, if you want to be like super clinical about topology, you can try relaxing this guys a little bit more right here. And of course, the one of the issues that you're gonna see me having right now is the fact that the scope is not like super clean. There's gonna be a little bit of bumpiness. That's something that we need to fix after we actually create the mesh, to make sure that the surface is like as super clean and super tight as possible, right? Before we add any sort of like details. Here, let's add another line right there. We need that line to go over here. Start creating the elements here. As you can see there, for instance, we're going to have a star. Stars are perfectly fine. And this is about, it's all about topology control, right? So if you don't know about topology control, well, we have the every topology course, of course. But it's about how we make things flow in a specific direction to get, well, in this case, a specific result, right? That's it's a very important part of the modeling process. Some people like to do this in the blocking stage. Like they like to, to just like make sure everything falls nicely on the blocking stage. For instance, here I'm gonna use get another very common technique in topology control where we use another point right there to avoid having to add more lines going, in this case, up there. And now we face the most common enemy everyone faces when modeling: breaking triangles. Everyone hates the triangles. I've mentioned this before. Triangles are not that bad. So, let's see. Quick question. What's the easiest way to solve that triangle right there? There's a couple of options. How much do you typically earn? Where do you find your projects, and what kind of work have you done so far? Which platforms or companies have you worked with? Hey, Leal. Oh, that's a very complicated question. When I first started, I was not making much. Like when I first started, I was making about $20 per hour as a freelance artist. I've been doing freelance pretty much my whole career. I've worked in a couple of studios before I graduated from school. So after I graduated, pretty much everything has been freelance. And as I mentioned before, I do have a small studio here in Mexico where we do VR and AR stuff for museums and for companies. Small projects, but because it's, well, my own business, right, along with my partner, the way like the math works and the way the money works is different when you are an owner than when you are an employee, right? So that skews the calculations quite a bit. But the best advice that I can give you, especially if you want to know how much you should charge, I've shown this before as well. I've shown this before as well, is take a look at what the average income is for someone in your country first, right? Like that should be your base. Like if you're working in your country and you're working with local clients, well, that's how much you can expect to make as a 3D artist, right? Then you can check the rates that people are charging in other countries like the US, like Canada, like Europe, right? Any country in Europe, and you can get like an estimate on how much you should charge. I always give this advice to my students when we're talking about like money. You need to adapt your prices a little bit depending on the size of the client, right? It's not the same for me to be looking with a small business locally than it is for me to be working with, let's say, for instance, one of the brands that we work here on the channel, right? So it's completely different. Like a big brand usually has way more money. You're going to be helping them way more, so the exposure that they're going to get or whatever, it's going to be more, so you can of course charge more. So but it really depends on the kind of like project that you're working at. It depends on the type of client that you're working with. So there's multiple factors. Another like really good advice, and this was given by my dad, is figure out what your base sort of like a monthly number is, right? Like the base monthly number that you need to have on your like notebook is, how much money do I need to pay for my housing or mortgage or whatever, to pay for my food, right? Like to pay for my utilities, to pay for any tool or anything that I need to make my job, right? So in this case, electricity, your computer, your internet, your softwares, whatever. So it's your housing, your food, your tools to work. Then you need to add things such as social security, right? So if you're paying for like a private health like thing or whatever, medicines, all that kind of stuff. Then you add some extra money for like unaccounted things that you might have forgotten about. Transportation, yeah, that's right, Alan. So transportation, your car payments, whatever. Then you add a little bit of saving, and that's it. Like that's your number, right? So that should be the number you should be aiming for. You take that number and then you can divide it by, if I'm not mistaken, the number is like 26. And that's roughly how much you should be making per day, right? Like that should be like close to your daily rate. That doesn't mean that that's what you need to charge. You can charge way, way more. But that should give you a really good sort of like ballpark number of how much money you should charge for something, right? Because if you're charging less than that, then you're not going to be able to make ends meet, right? Like you're not going to be able to pay for all of the things that I just mentioned. So yeah, that will be my advice there. Okay, so make a line of the, yeah, so the triangle is just make a small line right there. That's it. So if we just make a small line right there and we just fill that in, boom, there we go. The triangle is gone and things are flowing nicely. We get a nice effect. Can we smooth? I don't remember if we can, if there was, like, I know there's like a smooth brush. I mean, we can use the smooth brush within Zbrush, right? But there you go. Look at that, guys. Like in just a matter of minutes, we were able to very cleanly generate this mesh right here. And now the next stage is going to be to create the volume for it. But now that I see it, I think it might not be a bad idea to actually... Are we modeling them? No, let's... Yeah, okay. So this is what I'm going to do. I am going to isolate this one. And as you can see, this is my mesh. I'm going to start cleaning things up a little bit. So right now, if I solo this out, right? The only problem is that this still is, and you can see it here on the preview, this still is a retopo tool. So it's still sort of like stuck to the retopo mode. And if I want to modify this a little bit more freely, I need to get rid of this retopo mode. There's a couple of ways to do it. In my opinion, the easiest one is just duplicate the mesh. And then the duplicated mesh is not going to be in retopo mode anymore. And then you just delete the previous one. There you go. So now this one is in normal mode. And if I go, for instance, to the move brush, if I go to move brush or to the move brush, I can very easily start like adjusting some of these points. And this is the big advantage of working with a low poly asset, right? Like the fact that when we are working with a low poly asset, it's a lot easier to control things like the silhouette, the curvature, all of these things right here. So all of that like mushiness that we had from the high poly, we can pretty much reduce it or minimize it quite a bit, because this shape right here should allow us to well, to clean stuff up, right? Another thing, for instance, if we go to CModeler, we're going to have access to all of the CModeler tools. For instance, here, I probably want to add another edge loop. So I'm going to insert an edge loop, let's say right there. There we go. And then again, I go to my move brush and I'm just going to start like moving this thing around to create a little bit of a cleaner curvature. So hopefully you guys can see how powerful having the retopo tools instead of Zbrush are, because it just like minimizes the amount of like jumping between softwares. I wonder what they're going to be adding this year. Zbrush usually releases new features during Zbrush Summit, and it's very soon. I think I'm not sure if it's in October or November where they tend to release this kind of stuff. Let's see. Hey, if I've been looking at companies here in Mexico to work like CGBot and Liquid Development, do you have any insight on how they work? Thanks. Yes. So I did work in CGBot a long time ago. That's actually where I met Chris Silva, who is one of our judges this time around. We both were in the Wetopia team, which was a mobile game that we were working on back then. And I enjoyed it. I personally enjoyed my time there. Back then, I'm not sure how it is right now, but back then, one common complaint was the payment. It was not great, right? Because unfortunately, since we are in Mexico, we are going to be paid Mexican wages. Even though the studio also has a studio or a what's the word? It also has an office, I believe, in Dallas or in Texas somewhere. So the wages were a relatively common complaint. They had a thing, I'm not sure if it's still a thing or not, where they would like really like hard monitor you every single moment of the day and make sure that you were always working. And they had some, I would say, not ideal methods of doing that, unfortunately, but I think they changed that. I've heard that the culture now, it's a lot like nicer. I have a couple of friends working there, so it's good. It's good. I think it's a good option. Like a lot of us back in the day, or a lot of my peers who were there, they mentioned that CGBot was a good place to start because you would learn a lot of things. You would get credits on games, right? Because as an outsourced studio, you were working on big games. Like I don't know what they're working on right now, but I know they used to work on things like Overwatch and some like sports games. So they had some like really cool products, to be honest. Okay. Now, as you can see, most of this thing is just pushing out. So I'm gonna try and see if with C-Modeler I can extrude move, and I'm gonna try the mesh border. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Let's try that again. There we go. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. That's pretty much exactly what I wanted. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Now, what I'm gonna try here, oh, I always hate doing this. Let's try doing an inset. Inset, etch loop complete. This is a tricky one because this is where, like, usually, again, for games, you're not gonna do the inside of the armor, right? You just need the outside. But I do want to have like a little bit of a border so that we don't have a bad result right there. This is where maybe go see extrude. Not sure if extrude's gonna do the job here. Let's try extrude edge face. Extrude mesh border. There you go. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Alan. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. So just that. We just need a little bit of a line going in so that when we do the bakes and stuff. Actually, no, it didn't exactly do what I wanted. Oh, I know what we can do. Is that gonna work though? Because we really just push back, right? When we did the extrude move, I think we just push back, right? Yeah, okay. So this is what I'm gonna do instead. I'm gonna duplicate the mesh, and then I'm going to push it back to where I need the mesh to be. So right around there. Then I'm going to go to display properties and I'm going to flip. So what that will do is this is now the other part and this is the other part, right? And then we're going to go subtool, merge down, okay? And we're going to have this and this, right? And we should be able to bridge. I don't remember if bridge allows me to bridge edges. I know it will allow me to do like one and one, but I don't want to do every single one right here. Like it's gonna take forever, right? So can we? Oh, you meant extrude the whole thing, right? Extrude the whole thing. Yeah. I actually think that might be a better option. So I don't think bridge is going to... Oh, there you go. Sorry for doubting you, Zbrush. You actually did it. You actually did it. There we go. So we have this thing right here, which is great. Awesome. Cool. So now we're not gonna have to worry about the curvature like changing or switching or anything because we have the thickness, right? The next stage on this armor is again cleaning up some of the profiles. Like just adjusting some of the elements and smoothing this, right? So if I go here, I'm going to use dynamic smoothing. So I'm going to go dynamic subdivision. It's kind of like turbo smooth inside of 3D Max or kind of like the smooth modifier inside of Blender, which is just like a preview, right? So if I do that, as you can see, one of the things that we're immediately noticing is that we're losing all of that like sharpness that we were talking about. So this is the big question. Do we insert an edge loop or do we use something like, what's the word? Something like creasing, right? And it really doesn't matter as much. If you are going to be staying inside of Zbrush, then creasing is a really good option. Let me just do one thing right here. Just Control W. There you go. I want to make sure that we have, let's do other groups here. There you go. So I want to have front of the plate, side of the plate, and then back of the plate. So creasing, do you guys know what creasing is? Plimby, what's up, my friend? No, I'm not the GOAT. I'm just a humble 3D artist sharing my love for teaching and for 3D here on the interwebs. But if the stuff that I've been sharing here on YouTube and on the socials is helping you, then I'm really happy. Let's see, what? Does crease transfer good to other? That's the thing. So it might and it might not. That's the problem with creasing. So my only issue with creasing is that sometimes it does not, as Vector is saying right here, transfer properly into other software. So here's what I'm gonna do, actually, guys. I'm gonna show you the power of freaking polygroups. Like, if you are instead of Zbrush and you're not using polygroups, it's like you're working with one hand behind your back. Like, polygroups are so freaking good. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start polygrouping all of the areas that I want to keep as plates of the whole thing. So for instance, that whole thing right there, that's a plate, right? Like that's a section that I want to keep as a separate piece. Here now I'm going to press Alt and click to, or Shift and click. What is it? How do I switch the color? It's not the color though. Oh man, oh, this freaks me out. Casey or who was asking this question? Like, now I forgot how to freaking change the pick on a specific element. So I need to remember how to make sure that when I hit Alt, the polygroup tool. There you go. So you click on the object and then you press Alt until you get a different color. There you go. So again, I click on the object and then I press Alt until I get a different color. So as you can see, this is what I'm doing, right? I'm just like polygrouping all of the areas that I want to have like a hard edge. And the topology is already going to be helping me. Like I already did a good job on the topology construction so that this is not as bad. But there you go. Now what we can do is we can go to creasing and we can do a very simple crease polygroup right here. Crease PG, crease polygroup border. And what that will do is it will add, I hope the compression is not that bad, but hopefully you can see sort of like a double-sided or double-dotted line on the borders of the polygroups. And what that will do is if I go to dynamic subdivision and I dynamic subdivide, as you can see right there, look at that, right? So all of those borders are being kept like quite sharper, which is what we want. Now, we might need to do a couple more polygroups here to make sure that everything like looks as nice as possible. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to this guys right here. And there's another tool that we can use. I don't want to be selecting and creating polygroups for all of these things. So one of the elements that we can do is if we go to polygroup sections, there should be one called polygroup by normals. And if I do that, look at that, right? So now as you can see, depending on the direction and the normals of the elements, we now have different polygroups. So for instance, all of this element, all of this blue one, which is a little more curved, is following a very specific like pattern. And every single one of those sides is, well, following that. So if we go back here and we go back again to creasing, right? We can go geometry and then crease and then do another crease polygroups. Now, when we do dynamic subdivision, everything's going to remain a lot sharper. Right there? That's what we want. Now, I'm noticing a little bit of an issue here. I'm not sure what happened here. You see that? I don't like that. So because we're still on the first level of subdivision, we should be able to do a mirror and weld to clean that up. But I'm going to do it on the other side. So I'm going to do a mirror and then mirror and weld. Mirror and weld. There you go. So that we have a cleaner effect right there. If this happens right here, right, we can just go to, again, see modeler, go to edge, and we can do a delete. Delete. We're going to delete that edge and that edge. There we go. And now we can go. I hate when this happens. Actually, let me remove symmetry. I'm gonna delete that edge, and then I'm gonna go and bridge from here to here. Oh, here to here. From here to here, and from here to here. There we go. Now we do another mirror and weld. That way we solve that little like N-gun or thingy that we have right there. And just to keep things clean, we're just gonna do Control W on that whole polygroup, and there we go. So yeah, now again, if we turn dynamic subdivision on, we get that. Now, one thing, I do want this guy right here to be a different polygroup. So again, just gonna do that. Again, we do one more geometry, crease polygroup. I should do a what the word? I should do a like shortcuts for this kind of stuff. You guys want me to show you that? Like, do you guys know how to customize ZBrush? Very easy. I'll show you it in just 1 second. Usually my rule of thumb is if I'm using a tool more than 3 times in less than like 5 minutes, I create a button for it or some sort of like shortcut, because I know that I'm going to be, again, using it quite a bit. So same thing, for instance, here, I think. There we go. So increase polygon, because I want to have that like sharp corner as well. Now, if we do dynamic subdivision, look at that. Right? And we can add 1 more subdivision, of course. Right now it's using 2. We can go 3. And look at how like clean and tight that armor piece is, right? This is the kind of stuff that we want to do. And the cool thing is, because this is set to dynamic subdivision, I can still go to the low poly version or to the low poly section of this guy and move some points around, adjust some things. And I can even keep this with letter D. I'm going to say yes. I can just press the letter D. This is now activated, and I can work in this level. So even though this is just a preview of the chess piece or whatever, I can already see how the points and how everything's going to sort of like modify and divide. We can always, of course, add like more details or more damage in just a second, but it's a really good way to control and make sure that your pieces are going, well, in this case, in the direction that we want. Wouldn't flat subdiv get you the same result? Flat subdiv? Yeah, that could also work. Yeah, remember, guys, there's always like multiple ways to get to the same result. There's a quote in Spanish, I'm not sure if it exists in English, called every road leads to Rome. I think that's a famous quote, right? Pretty sure. There is an option that we can do here. Let's see if it doesn't crash. So let's turn off dynamic subdivision. So there is the bevel option. We could do smart bevel. That's an option, right? But that usually is better for things. I'm just gonna do a quick save right here. And it's right here, crease and then bevel. So if I click bevel, as you can see, it's gonna bevel the whole thing, and then we can change the width of that bevel. And as you can see, it's following the division or the polygroups that we have. I don't know if I can increase the resolution. Yeah, so these are the sides. So I'm gonna do like 1 there, and we can do something like this. And what that will allow me now is, again, with dynamic subdivision, when we subdivide, well, the result's going to be a little bit smoother, right? It's not going to be super sharp. It's going to be just a little bit smoother. So it works. Have you tried Seed Radial? I have it. I have not tried it. Like I need to sit down and actually like like set it up and everything to make sure that I can like learn it. I think it's a really good tool. That's by Pablo, right? Like he developed that tool. Really good one. I do recommend, if you like working with shortcuts, that one is it's a fun one. And it does seem to be a nice way to like speed up the process a little bit. So there we go. Yeah, this piece is looking tight, guys. It is looking tight. Is it healthy modeling in Blender and then exporting to ZBrush after? A best practice to the... No, if you want to start in Blender and then jump to ZBrush, go for it. Would you compare sculpting in Blender and ZBrush in general? And do you plan any videos for render sculpting? No, I'm not going to do... I don't think I'm going to be able to do sculpting videos inside of Blender. And one of the main reasons is that I don't like it. It's good. It's good. But it's not as good as ZBrush, right? Like ZBrush is the like go-to software. Here's the thing, guys. And actually, let's go full camera. There's nothing wrong with using a software such as, let's say, Blender or Maya to do most of your workflow, right? Like if you want to use Blender to model, sculpt, texture, render, rig, animate, simulate, do all that kind of stuff, you can. And yes, it's awesome, it's free, it's amazing. Now, if you ask me, oh, should I be using ZBrush for sculpting? Should I be using Marble Designer for simulation? Should I be using things like Action for hair creation? Well, though all of those softwares that I just mentioned are specially built, are specially made for those particular things. So if you want to use the best software for sculpting, I will tell you, go and use Zbrush, because even though there are other options out there, Zbrush has been doing this for 20 years and they're heavily specialized in giving us the best tools just for sculpting. If you want to do cloth simulation, then yeah, go and use Marvelous Designer, because that's going to give you the best result in terms of like fabric simulation. It's going to be the fastest, it's going to be the easiest one to use, because they've been doing this for several years now, making sure that they have that specific like need fulfilled, right? So specialized softwares are that they're used for specialty things, and they're going to be the best at doing that because they have the best tools. Another one, resin, right? Like, do you want to do like the best possible UVs that you can? Well, then resin UV is going to give you that result. Does that mean that you can't use other softwares to get you some really nice UVs? No, you can still use other softwares, but again, if you want the best result, then using a specialized software is going to give you, well, the best result. That's just how it is. Does that mean that you need to do it? No. Does that mean that you're going to get better results? Yeah. I know it sounds very weird when you say it that way, but it's just that's just the way it is. Okay. So here I'm going to apply the dynamic subdivision already. When you apply the dynamic subdivision, it becomes just like traditional like subdivision levels, right? And the cool thing is, I was very careful on making sure that when I was doing this subdivision, I had a good resolution and a good effect, right? So what this will allow me to do now is, now I can start going, for instance, to trim dynamic, and it can start hitting some parts of the model, right? Let's keep this one more. Actually, we need more subdivision here. Go, there you go. And we can start adding the famous like edgeware and stuff. Now my driver's freaking failing again. Hate this, man. Hate this. There you go. Right, and I can start adding all of this little like edge detail and edgeware. I don't think I'm gonna be adding details here like bands and things like that. I think I'm gonna do that inside of the texturing process. But this should give us a good like interesting looking effect. A nice rule of thumb: when doing anything that's symmetrical, the further away you are from the center line, the easiest it's going to be to hide the fact that this is symmetrical, because it's very difficult for someone to be able to see this side and this side at the same time, right? Like when we're focusing on something, we see either one side or the other, but the closer we are to the center line, that's when you want to be careful, because if you are really close to the center line, it's going to be a lot more obvious to see the to see the difference. So on those particular cases, I would strongly recommend to break symmetry. Right, so that detail right there, it's fine if we have it on both sides, like no one's gonna notice. As the meme says, right? Like no one's gonna know. They're gonna know. No, they're not gonna know. It's very difficult to realize that, right? However, the closer we are to the center line, the easier it gets to actually see that kind of stuff. So here, I'm gonna break symmetry, and now I can, for instance, go with like clay buildup, add a little bit of damage here on the armor. Right, and then I'm going to use my Orphan Edge Protect to polish it a little bit more. Would you ever do a sculpting workshop but for Blender instead? I don't think I will. To be honest, I like, we've done it before. We did the helmet last year, right, Alan? I think. But I don't think I would. I would probably point you to other people here on YouTube who are doing that. There's this very famous guy, Speedcare. You probably have seen him, Speed Character. He does characters and he does all of them inside the Blender. So, so I think he's like he's more knowledgeable than me in Blender sculpting. So if you are interested in learning the sculpting tools inside of Blender, then I would probably like push you towards that guy. Super clean looking plate. Thank you, Patricio. Yeah, that's the point. that's the goal right now, to make a really like tight looking like armor. And again, the cool thing is we already have the low poly. I don't need to do retopology, right? Like this right here, that's my low poly. It's only 1,296 points, so it's about 2,400 like vertices. There might be a couple of things that I might delete, like some bevels. Like we don't need as many bevels for this thing. But yeah, this is really like this is already like very workable geometry here. Let's see, is it Nico? I think it's Nico. Yeah, I don't know his name. Apologize for that. But I've seen him as a Speed Character. Like he does like really quick sculpts and he does a great job. Hello, my Zbrush has recently been crashing when I use the unified skin function. Could you help me out? Just wondering if you're experiencing the same issue. Unified skin. Oh man, I haven't used that one in a while. Have you tried using adaptive skin instead? I don't think I've ever used unified skin. Usually when I'm doing like C-spheres, I use adaptive skin, and I don't think I've gotten crashes with that. Oh yeah, the mallet fast. It's another big one. Yeah. Yeah, for those of you that missed it, that one's here, brushes, and it's mallet fast. This one's good for like again, like hits and stuff. It's better for stone, I think, because it gives this very sort of like gnarly damage look. Actually, in armor, it's not giving me that bad of a result here. Go. Now, I don't want to go too crazy with damage on this piece. I want to keep it like used, but relatively clean. If that makes sense. Dark Moose, what's up, my friend? Says hello, long time no see. Have you ever used Bevel Pro plugin? Yes, I have. It's good. I use it mostly when I don't have clean topology. So when you don't have clean topology, the Bevel Pro is really good because it allows you to use polygroups and it's actually using like a live boolean function to do that. Like the math behind it, it's close to like a live boolean function. But yeah, it's good. I like it. Nico jump-started my career. Awesome, yeah. And that's the beauty about what we have right now, right? So many people doing so many amazing things. At every single level, right? Like there's beginners doing it, there's pros doing it. It just benefits everyone. Let's see, do I miss anything? Any question just yet? That sharp element. Do you prioritize the speed or quality in a studio environment? Oh, that's a great question. It depends on the budget and the time frame, right? So I've had clients and I've had projects where I'm given a lot of time to do something that I've considered to be like very easy. And that's great because I can focus on quality, right? And I've had clients and projects where I've been giving really little time to do something that I would consider actually really complex. And in that case, well, you prioritize the speed and getting something that works as fast as possible. So yeah, I would say it depends. One of the best things you can do, communicate clearly to your client, communicate clearly to your art director, to your art lead, right? And be like, hey, this thing that you're asking me to do, it's going to take longer than you think, so be aware of that. Or hey, this is actually very simple. Are you sure you want me to spend 3 days on this? If that's the case, I'll do it. Just keep in mind that it's something simple. We could move to something more important, right? There's a very good tool. I'm going to give you these tools, guys. If you are ever in an environment or in a project where you're being asked to do too many things, right? And it's unfortunately a relatively common situation. You have a client, you have a deadline, and they're like, oh, I need you to finish the gun for the character. I need you to finish the character's head, and I need you to finish the pants, and I need you to finish, I don't know, like a vehicle that he's going to be on, right? Like, so there's so many different things that they want you to work on or finish. You need, again, to be very clear with your, with your supervisor or whoever is in charge of that project, and be like, hey, I understand that you're giving me all of this list. Question, what thing in this list do you want me to prioritize? Give them, like, make it very clear that you cannot do every single thing that they're asking, right? So if they start asking like a bunch of things, it's like, hey, from this list, from this whole thing, what do you want me to prioritize? Because if you don't say anything, they're going to assume that you're going to be able to manage and do all of those things. And the moment you can, which is, by the way, impossible, right, for any human, they're going to be like, oh, you know what, like, you failed. So like, no, I'm prioritizing. You can ask Alan about this. That's the way we work. Like, if Alan tells me, hey, today we're going to be doing, like, I don't know, like, we're going to be editing some shorts or some videos, and suddenly I need him to do another edit, I'll tell him, hey, whatever it is you're doing, stop that. I know that that's no longer the priority. Now we work on this. And I know that first thing that he was working on is not going to be finished, of course, right? So that's just the way it works. Okay, cool. We got this first part of the armor. We now need to go and do another part. Let's do, I think this top part right here. This one's going to be an easy one. Actually, I might be able to show you another technique here, guys. Should we try that one? Yeah, let's try that one. So, I'm going to duplicate this. Hopefully this doesn't crash. And I want to do this piece right here. It's a simple piece, right? It's a relatively simple piece. And I don't want to do retopology. Let's say I'm against retopology right now. Well, not against it, right? But I want to keep it as simple as possible. So I'm going to try to do everything with just like the tools that we have here inside the Zbrush. I'm going to start with the knife tool. Then remove all of that mesh right there that I don't want. Then I'm going to do here. And I'm going to double tap to go in. Remove all of that. There you go. And here from the front, we're going to remove all of that. All of that. I'm using my knife tool to just remove all of those elements. And I know the knife tool has a reputation of crashing, unfortunately. But there you go. As you can see, we get this like interesting shape right here. Actually, not exactly what I was expecting. Let's try Dynamesh real quick. I'm going to do all the groups. Control-Shift-Click on this thing, and then delete hidden. That way, this is the only mesh that we have right here. I actually wanted to have a solid block. So we might need to do something, but it's actually might be an interesting exercise. Do that right there. Okay, cool. So we have this thing right here, correct? All clean right there. We can even like sharpen this guy right here. And now what I want to do is I'm going to use something like the pinch brush to pinch the borders. Actually, no, let's not use the pinch brush. Let's just Dynamesh. Let's Dynamesh with polish. There you go. That's a little bit better. This is a technique that I saw. Again, I think it was from the guys at Chaos Masons. Let's see if it works. Let's see if it works for me. Let's see. No, it's a Disney. Is that so? What? Shape palette? Oh, give me 1 second, guys. I'm missing some. Hey, how should the portfolio be like junior level? Like, must you be crazy good that it's almost like... No, it doesn't need to be crazy good so that it looks like you're on a senior level. But I'm not gonna lie, nowadays you do need to be sort of like closer to mid-level, right? And this is unfortunately a default of a lot of educational institutions that I've seen, especially students who come to me with like a mentorship like needs. They tell me I've been going to school, like I've been going to uni for the past 3 years, and they show me the work that they've been doing at uni, and I'm like, oh man, I think that uni especially is failing you, because it's very difficult for me to see that work and correlate it to 3 years of work. Like, that doesn't seem like 3 years of work to me. And of course, it could be the fault on the student that didn't do the homework or whatever. It could be the fault on the institution that's not preparing their curriculum correctly. Like, there's a bunch of things, right? So nowadays, if you want to get a job, like the kind of like stuff that you need to be, or the kind of level that you need to be at, it's closer to like mid-level. So even for juniors, you need to be a little bit closer to mid-level if you want to get a job straight into it, like studio, like right away, right? If you don't mind, again, going through the trenches and getting your foot on the door, even if you're working on very, very like small productions, then even junior level is fine. But yeah, it's getting tougher because you need to have a higher quality level, because there's more demand for this. Well, not more demand, there's more supply, right? There's more people who are doing and learning 3D. It's like a double-edged sword, right? So on one side, it's great that we have so many tools nowadays, like Blender, that allows everyone to learn about the 3D world and create some cool things. The downside to that is because more people know how to do this, well, then the competition is tougher, and you need to be better in order to to get a job, right? Like to land some of these big opportunities. What do you think of voxel sculpting? I haven't tried it as much. I tried a little bit inside of 3D Code. I know 3D Code has like voxel sculpting, and it's quite good, but I haven't tried it that much, to be honest. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use polypaint to create some polygroups. And the way I'm going to do this is by painting this and then using a tool that we have on the plugins. And this ideally should allow me to create a very clean low poly mesh for this piece right here. Let's see how well this works for this piece, because I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that we don't have like proper depth. Something like this. There we go. So I've marked all of the lines with this like a black paint, right? I filled everything with white. Now I've marked everything with black, and we can go to C plugin. And there is one option here called polygroup it. And we're going to say polygroup from paint borders. And now, as you can see, we get this, right? So we are able to create some very nice clean polygroups for this piece. And now I'm going to go to deformation. I'm going to do polish by groups quite a bit. So the lines are a lot tighter, cleaner, right? So you can see the borders right there. And now we're going to go geometry. And we're going to go series mesh. Quite low poly, quite low. And I'm going to try using the detect edges and keep groups. There you go. So it's not bad, as you can see right there. It's definitely going closer to what I want. I'm going to move my target count really low. Much better, right? Let's go a little bit lower. There we go. That's a lot closer to what I was like expecting, right? So as you can see, let me turn off the poly paint so that it's a little bit easier to, for the mask, right? We're able to create this mesh right here. Let me see, just in case we can do this. Let's do half. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Can we do one more half? Perfect. This is it. This is way, way better. There we go. That's what I want. So as you can see, this is very clean here, 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 here on the top, and on the bottom. Yeah, this is great. This is exactly what I was looking for. The only issue is this back polygroup. But that's not that big of a deal because we can just invert, delete hidden, and there we go. We get this piece right here. Right? And now with a low poly piece like this one, we can start adjusting it so that it matches and meets, right, with this piece right here. So for instance here, give this like a little bit of a bevel going forward, and even a little bit of a curvature. Let's push this out a little bit. Drag this in. Keep that one there. And now it's just a matter of making sure the points fall exactly where I need them. Because the next stage is, of course, going to be to close this hole, right? And there's, again, multiple ways to do it. In this particular one, I think, let's go double here so we can actually see. The display properties double. We don't have too many points, so just bridging. It's probably going to be really easy. Thank you, Max Mac. Thank you for being here. Have a great dinner. Let's see. Not sure if you've covered it, but how well does Zbrush work when you use a low poly, high poly workflow? Is there something that restricts the sculpting? No. Yeah, well, yes. And I'm going to explain that in just a second, Vessel. Just give me 1 second to answer some of the other questions. Let's see. Control plus Z says, hey, I've worked in BFX for 3 years and I'm considering applying for a master's degree in technical art at a local state university in Utah. The main reason is my job does not offer many networking opportunities. Is a master's degree? Yes, it could be a good opportunity, and that's one of the big advantages of like education, right? Like going to a school or to a program. The fact that you're gonna meet people, be it the teachers, other students, and stuff like that. It's not a guarantee though, and I've talked about this before. We unfortunately had a student last year. She showed her work as a master's, like she was working on her master's. I don't remember where. I think Italy, probably. And the problem was that the level that she was showcasing was not great. And I told her that it's like, hey, I'm sorry, this is not great from a technical side of view. But the networking opportunities, if you want to pursue education eventually in the future, it's useful. I've actually had an issue with that in the past, where schools reach out to me and they want me to teach at their universities, and when I tell them, hey, I don't have a degree, like, because I have a certificate from Noman, but that's pretty much it. Like, I don't have a big degree, a 4-year degree or whatever. They're like, oh no, unfortunately, we do need you to have a degree in order to teach, because it's required, right, by law or whatever. It's like, oh, I don't. And I've been able to work with other educational institutions that do allow me to teach, because they understand that in our specific, let's say, in our specific career path, the degree is not really a guarantee of the quality of your work. Your portfolio is. And that's what we were told every single day when we were at schools. Like, portfolio is what matters. Who you know and your portfolio is what matters. And I agree with that. I think that's true. Like, I've had more doors opened for me thanks to my portfolio than to where I went to school to. I'm really in love with Zbrush. It's been 2 years and I can't believe I haven't used it before. Yeah, man. Been using it for 16 years now, so I can relate to that feeling. Okay, let's insert edges here. Really don't want to insert that many edges though. Insert. Let's do costume. We need 3. Multiple edge loops. Go. We can breach again. I'll explain what you asked about the limitations to sculpting from low poly to high poly in just a second, my friend. It's a great question, by the way. It's a very common pain point. Okay, so as you guys can see here, we're gonna have a little bit of an issue because we need more resolution here, or because it's the back of the element, we can just ignore and say, I don't care. These are triangles, right? So both of those options work for us because it's the back of the element, right? We're not going to see it. So when you are working inside of a Zbrush, and actually this is a great example of it, right? So when you're working inside of Zbrush and you are working in a low poly to high poly approach, Basil, you want to make sure that the organization of your polygons is very uniform. What do I mean by that? So let me go to the cylinder right here, right? Oh. There we go. So this is a base cylinder here inside of Zbrush that we can start sculpting from. If I go to the initialize option and I change the vertical subdivisions and I make this like that, right? Just 3 subdivisions. This is a very normal cylinder that you could expect to see from Blender, right? Like, you model a cylinder, you want to do, I don't know, like a barrel or whatever, and you want to sculpt inside of Zbrush. If I start subdividing this guy, what's going to happen is every single face is going to be divided 4 times. And you can see it here, right? Every single face is being divided 4 times. But if I want to sculpt now, even though I'm almost at 1,000,000 polygons right there, the quality that I'm going to be able to sculpt at, it's not great. You can see how pixelated it is, and it's very pixelated because it's stretching the faces too much. See that right there? See how the faces are being stretched too much right here? So we will need like a stupid amount of like topology to be able to work properly with the cylinder. However, if we go back to the initialize setting and we go to the options and we keep the divisions here higher so that the elements look a little bit more like squares, so something like that, even on the caps, right? For instance, here on the caps, it might be a good division to do that as well. There we go, something like that. Not sure why the thing is deforming, but let's get back. So if we have a mesh that's a little bit closer to this, can we reset this? Well, anyway, if we have something that's a little bit closer to this, there you go, where we have a uniform distribution of faces on the side and on the top, when we go to subdividing and sculpting, even at low subdivision levels, we're going to be able to have a cleaner sculpt result because the uniformity of faces is better. Does that make sense? So that is one of the things that you need to keep in mind if you want to bring in a low poly element. You need to make sure that the density of faces is very uniform. If you try to optimize the way we normally optimize for games with really long faces, really long flat faces, it's not gonna work. What you can do at that point is instead jump into Dynamesh. And if you jump into Dynamesh, now it's going to automatically recalculate the surface so that you do have a, a uniform distribution of the faces. And at this point, then you can sculpt. And you can still keep your low poly and then just bake everything down as long as the silhouette doesn't change that much, right? But yeah, those are like the things that you need to be aware of when working with this kind of like processes. Okay, let's smooth this out. Actually, we might need to clean this edges. Should we do let's do another polygroup by normals. Does that work? Almost. Now let's just do manuals, some manual polygroups. So it's that one, that one, that one. And there we go. Again, geometry, and then crease and crease polygroup. That way, when we smooth, there we go. Perfect, super clean, like armor piece right there, right? And as someone else mentioned, if we don't want to crease and we want to instill bevel, because we have really clean topology, we can bevel right here, right? So I'm gonna increase the resolution of the bevel. Do 2 and make the bevel a lot smaller like that. That way when we smooth we get this, right? Really clean shape. We're getting a little of a pinch right there. Why? Topology not right? One second, guys. Oh, it's missing the crease. Crease polygroup. Now we bevel. There you go. And let's do smaller resolution. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, I don't know what that was, but now we get a cleaner, smoother version of this thing right here. And I can just like subdivide this a couple of times. Let's go to trim dynamic, break symmetry a little bit. And again, because this is a high poly, we can just... If my driver decides to work, though. Huyan. I'm not sure if it's Huyan or if it's Zbrush. I'm pretty sure it's Huyan. Very annoying. Not gonna deny it. And see, the funny thing is, it only happens when... Could it be OBS? Because it only happens with streaming. You don't really have that issue? I don't know. What driver are you using, Alan? Can you check what driver you're using? Maybe I need to update my driver. Second there. Unfortunately, I need to go. Have a good stream. Thank you, Becker Draw. Maybe you already left, but thank you. It's always nice having you here. I don't think about this. Yeah, I'm using an old one as well. That's why I'm a little bit concerned, because the usual advice is, oh, you just download an older one, and that's what they have. So I'm not sure why I'm still like getting that problem. I damage this a little bit more. Like if it's already this damage, I think it makes sense to really commit to this. Be like a bullet hole or something, right? Like a blast that happened there. My Canvas Pro has never had that type of issue. It's weird. Yeah, I don't know what it is. And I don't think it's Zbrush because I tried it with multiple versions of Zbrush as well, and it's happened every single time. There you go. That looks a lot more interesting, right? Like a little bit of a bullet hole damage. Find another one right here. How should one go about learning anatomy better? I mean, of course, there are books like Anatomy for Sculptors, but there's more to anatomy than just muscles and forms. There's also movement. Yes. So, as character artists, we don't deal with movement as much unless you are going to be posing the character, right? And in that moment, yes, of course, you need to study the movement of the body to make sure that you get a nice result. I do have the course, the anatomy course, where I focus on that, and we do pose the character and we talk about that. It's a lot about practice, and yes, as you mentioned, it's of course about like learning the muscles and where the muscles are and all that kind of stuff. But it's also about making sure that you understand how things connect to each other. I think that will be the main difference. Oh yeah, felt nips are really good, Casey. I really like them. I don't have them on this pen because this is like the slim pen, and I prefer using the slim pen rather than the heavy one. I actually don't know where I left my heavy one. Oh, it's there. Yeah, the heavy one has the felt nib. Believe it or not, going to the gym helps. You learn how. Yep, that definitely helps. People who do more like muscle movement are the CFX characters. So it's character effects artists, right? So they'll actually build like simulation muscles. I think Unreal has now a plugin to do that as well, and it's gonna give you more like realistic results and stuff. Animators, of course, they need to deal a lot with anatomy to know how a character can properly like move and stuff. But for us as character artists, it's more about like sculpting the muscles properly first. You can do that, then you're already on the other side. Okay, cool. Nice. We got this. Eventually, we're going to be adding like section lines and things like that, right? Let's do one more piece, guys. One more piece, because then I need to go and I need to work on something else. Let's do this piece right here, which is a little bit more complex. Quite a bit more complex. Can we do one that's a little bit simpler, maybe? Yeah, let's do that one. So I think this one is another one of those pieces that can benefit quite a bit from... Actually, this one can do... Yeah, let's do traditional like retopology with this one. We're gonna flatten things a little bit more here. And gonna give me a little bit more of a guy. We're just gonna be extruding this thing down, so it's probably gonna be a little bit rounder around here. And I think I'm gonna add like some cylinders or something in this area. Wait, what do we have there? Yeah, we'll see what can fit. Maybe some like... No, just going with the flow. This is my design. My original design. Okay. So again, we're gonna go to the retopo brush. Retopo, click. Yes. The hell? Oh, because we're in dynamic solo. Go. And let's start placing some of our points here. There's more tools to the retopo brush. I'm not covering them right now. We did a stream last year, and we even added another section in our Zbrush course about this one because, again, it's a really good tool. It can optimize the process quite a bit. Here I do want to have a round curvature. That's why I'm capturing the silhouette like that. Sometimes points are not helping. What I prefer to do is just press Alt and just drag this one. Another really good option. Oh. There we go. That's it. That's all I need. What was that? 2 minutes? Let's see again, like the advantage, and you're gonna see in 1 second how easy it is now to convert this into a mesh. Gonna give us a really sort of like sharp, clean detail to start working with. So again, if I want to remove this, I'm just gonna duplicate the mesh, and then this one right here we can just delete. Okay. We got this piece right here. Turn this off for just a second. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go see modeler. And I'm going to do a extrude. Extrude. Where is it? Extrude. What did we use the other day? Yeah, it was extrude, right? I want to do island. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to extrude down. And then I'm going to mask that or isolate that polygroup. Is that the polygroup? Yeah. So grab that polygroup, mask it, and then invert the mask and just push this down. Of course, right now it's the display is flipped, so we're gonna go to display properties and flip. There you go. You can see we have that. Why is it transparent? Okay. And again, because we have very few points, we can play with this kind of stuff. There you go. Yep, that's pretty much it. Now it's just a matter of adjusting things a little bit so they flow with the other piece. And in armors, it's very common to have like overlaps. As long as they don't look out of place, we should be fine. So for instance, here, these ones do look a little bit out of place. So let's start fixing them. Let's see. Let's say someone's aiming for print industry. Sure, if you mean print, or if you mean other type of industry, or you need to sculpt the characters in complex or engaging poses. So how should one aim for learning anatomy in those cases? It's a tough question, my friend, but it's probably gonna be the same answer. It's about learning gesture. Like, actually, one thing that I can recommend you is, if you want to do that kind of stuff, is to learn about gesture drawing, right? So learning about gesture drawing, about all of that, like posing things, like all of the elements that can help you. Those bits and pieces of knowledge will inform your sculpt creation a lot more and give you more precision on how you, well, in this case, present stuff, right? So it's definitely something to consider, to learn about like more traditional, let's say, workflows or processes. That would be my advice. Gesture drawing, of course, studying like the old like Renaissance masters and stuff. Like all of those things can really help with having a stronger foundation on posing characters. And well, as we mentioned before, there's a bunch of resources nowadays that we can use to like study and learn from, right? So that kind of things, or those kind of like tools, can also be quite helpful. Yeah, no, you don't need to memorize the muscles and stuff. It helps because knowledge is power, right? So knowing why and where the muscles are is it's a strong like option that we can have. But yeah, you're right that you don't really like need to know every single muscle. Like there's over 600 muscles in the human body, and I would say we only need to learn about like 80, maybe 100. I want to do something cool here. Let's just see modeler. So I'm going to polygroup. And then I'm going to QMesh, polygroup all. And this is why I love working with low amounts of like poly counts. Because of things like this, right? It's a lot easier to literally push points around and get exactly the shape that we want or that we need without box modeling. Like imagine trying to box model this thing right here. You would go crazy. Some people like doing this, but I really like pushing these things here. Since getting this like interesting detail, right? And we just extruded that from a piece that was already really clean. I'm doing nanite and low poly workflows in Unreal Engine 5. I need my high poly and low poly mesh to have the same UVs for mass texture. Should I make UVs on the high poly then decimate it for the low poly? Yes, you can do that. You can do that, or you can decimate, then do the UVs on the decimated version. Like doing UVs on a decimated version is not difficult. Rism has some really cool tools for that. You might want to look into them. And if not, polygroups, for instance, are a great way to organize your islands and help you with the retopology process. There's ways to do it. That looks interesting. See how far away we are. Oh, we're not actually that far away. That's great. So we're really close to the original shape, so that's nice. For instance, here, see how we have those guys right there? I feel like I can add some cylinders, so I'm just gonna append a cylinder 3D. And that's another thing, guys. Even though we're inside of Zbrush, not everything that we do inside of Zbrush needs to be sculpted. Like if you have a really clean sort of like base mesh or whatever, you can just work with that. And there's no one's gonna there's no Zbrush police that's gonna come to your house and be like, oh, you're not sculpting, I'm gonna take away your license. No. So for instance here, if I want to add a little detail with just like a cylinder, right, just sitting on top of this thing, I can do that, right? I can do that. I can extrude. I can like taper the edges, bevel. Like there's no one stopping me from adding, for instance, again, like a cylinder right here inside of this like section. And that's why we have tools such as CModeler. So a good artist should be able to use whatever tools you have at your disposal in order to get to the result that you need. That's the goal, right? Get to a nice result, even if you need to use, again, like a bunch of different like tools or techniques. This to me kind of looks like a bolt. There we go. And we can just like mirror and weld, right? Have it on both sides. So those kind of like details are going to make the whole thing a little bit more interesting. Now, the one thing that I don't like about this one right now is the fact that it just looks like it's sitting on top of the element very, very ugly, right? Or in a very ugly way. This is where adding something just to make it a little bit better can help. So for instance here, I'm going to go again to polygroup. I'm going to do... Actually, I'm going to go to etch and I'm going to do polygroup and polyloop. There we go. Because I want to polygroup like this whole thing right here. Now I'm going to go to QMesh, polygroup all. I'm going to push this out a little bit. That. Go. And now we can go to this edge and say something like bevel. Bevel that edge. Definitely bevel this edge as well. Right? And maybe we could even like, I'm not like poly group that guy right there. Actually, that guy right there. And I'm going to insert here and polygroup here. And then I'm going to QMesh polygroup all. That. Now I don't like 90-degree angles, so I'm gonna inset, polygroup all. On scale. I mean, since we're still on the work, this is where I do miss some of the old full symmetry. Okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna QMesh here and then bevel. It's probably gonna be the easiest one to achieve the result that I want. There we go. That's what I wanted. Right, now we of course mirror and weld, have the exact same thing on the other side. There you go. Now this piece is looking a lot more interesting because we added those elements and they should look fairly integrated. I might want to go here and just push some of these points down. I might even go all the way to the low subdivision level. Just push a little bit of that down so that it looks a little bit more interesting. Yeah, liking how this is going. Let's see. Let's removing blueprints in Unreal Engine 6. Yes, they will be removing them. It's gonna be a process. Like, it's not gonna be like they're gonna include them, but they're not gonna sort of like support them moving forward. It's interesting. I don't love the idea because blueprints were very cool. However, if they can figure it out a way, because I think they're developing their own like coding language or something like that. If they can make it as intuitive as how blueprints are, it's the same thing. Like, blueprints are just a visual way to see your code. So if you know how to use blueprints, it's relatively simple to jump into just doing it with codes. You just need to learn about like classes and the specific like syntax that you need. So it's not that complex, I would say. But yeah, let's see how they do that. What is the poly count on the sub D armor with your damage on it? This one is currently at 1.3 million points. Yeah, that one's currently at that amount of points. Let's see. What's one function you'd like them to add to Zbrush from other softwares? Oh man, that's a tough question. Function from Zbrush to other. Oh man, it would be so good if we could have like PBR materials. Like if we could plug in like textures, right? Like you know, your color map, your diffuse, your roughness, everything, so that you could see the object like with proper textures. But because Zbrush is technically not a 3D software, I know that that's not possible. It's just not possible. So like I think they would need to change so many things. But that's one function. Like being able to work with PBR materials will be pretty cool. No, Quattro we already have. We already have Quattro, my friend. That's what I've been doing with the retopology that I've showed you so far. So Quattro is already technically here. I don't think we need like the retopo brush that I've shown throughout the stream. It's that's pretty much the Quattro version. So. They made AI to make 3D models in 30 seconds. Yeah, but it's shit. So if you want shit, yeah, go and take that. It's bad. Bad topology, bad textures. I had a student yesterday, and he showed me a concept that his school, which I find it almost unbelievable that he said that to me, but he said that his school is pushing students to use AI instead of like developing their own concepts. I was like, oh man, that's it's not ideal, man. And I explained it. Like we took a look at the concept, and I showed him all of the different things that the concept had that was just bad. Like from design perspective, it was just bad design. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like I understand. And I told him, hey, if your school is making you do this, well, I don't want you to fail, right? So just like follow their instruction or whatever, but just keep in mind that as an artist, you don't want to be dealing with this kind of stuff. So be careful there. And he was like, yeah, I know. It's just I need to pass. I need my grade, whatever. It's like, yeah, an unfortunate situation. Here, what I'm doing is polygrouping everything so that we can do a bevel and get the clean cuts everywhere, right? For the polygroup crease and all that stuff. Rodolfo, what's up, my friend? Yeah, there's so many things about AI. I don't even want to talk about it today, guys. I feel like we spend so much energy talking about it. If we spend the energy just doing the art, we're gonna have some really cool stuff. AI is not gonna get better. It's actually getting worse. If you see the news, prices are going up. Token prices are just gonna explode in the next couple of months or years. Because AI uses databases to train, they cannot come up with new things. So I don't know, man. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Let's go geometry, freeze polygroups, bevel, all bevel, your resolution. Perfect. Look at that. Clean shape. I like it. I really like it. Let's apply this. Give it a couple more subdivisions. And now we can start like damaging it a little bit. Ah! Again? Again, Huyon? I promise I'm gonna solve this, guys. I need to solve this because this is definitely driving me crazier. I know some people tell me, oh, it's because in Windows Sync, but then if I disable it, it's not Windows Sync, so I don't know what it is, man. See? Now it's solved. Now it's fine. Yeah, Braxter. Believe me, I am aware of the current level of some of the AIs, and I understand. Again, I'm not against AI. I've mentioned this before, and hopefully people don't take this out of context. I'm not against AI. AI can be and has proven to be a really good tool in a lot of the workflows that we use. I loved when they introduced, for instance, denoiser a couple of years ago inside of Arnold, right? Like that saved so much render time. Denoiser is now inside of pretty much every software, and it uses AI. It figures out and it invents pixels to give us a nicer, cleaner result of our image. So I don't think anyone is against things like that, right? Like a denoiser as part of the process. There are AI solvers for motion capture, for instance, and I think those are great. Like you do your motion capture suit, or you record yourself with your phone or whatever, and then AI cleans up that information and gives you some really nice animation data that you can then use and clean up. Like an artist should be able to use and clean up to generate like more interesting things, right? So we get messages every single day. I get like 2 or 3 emails from different like agencies wanting me to promote all of the big brands of AI, and I don't even answer them. It's just like I'm not interested in working with anything that's like generative AI. Unfortunately, generative AI is everywhere. Like, for instance, I use Photoshop, and Photoshop has generative AI. I can open Photoshop right now and use the tokens that I get every month to generate like a new picture or a new render or whatever. I'm not going to do it. I still use Photoshop because I do like some of the other like tools that it has. For instance, there's an AI selection tool, and I use that quite a bit when we're working on the thumbnails to cut myself out and cut the thumbnails out from the softwares and stuff like that. So again, AI as a tool is not the problem. People trying to make it seem that AI is the solution and everyone should be adopting, and we should be like firing people left and right because AI is just going to make it everything like cheaper and better. No, That is the stuff that I am like quite like heavily against, if that makes sense. So it's a complicated topic. I'm not gonna deny it's a complicated topic, but it's not. We just need to be a little bit more mindful about how we approach AI. I think we need to be responsible about how we approach and what type of AI are we going to accept or adopt, and which types of AIs we are going to reject. Do you remember a couple of years ago when the NFT craze happened and everyone was like talking about NFT and how they were gonna create games with NFTs and products and services with NFTs because it just like blew up, right? And it was this like new technology, and everyone, just because you like, if you added NFT to whatever it is you were selling, everyone wanted to be a part of it, right? Well, I think it's very similar with AI. Like right now, I think a lot of like studios and games and productions or whatever, they're like, oh, we need to market ourselves as like the AI guys as well, because it's gonna attract more customers, or it's because it's gonna attract more investment. And people are investing in this kind of stuff. Like I know there's like people with a lot of money who are like, oh, this new company is promising that they're gonna solve hunger with AI. It's like, what? Like they're just like, a lot of people are just adding the word AI to their pitch so that they get the funding, when in reality you don't even need AI, or you don't even are gonna use AI, or what you think is AI is not actually AI. It's just like someone actually doing their job, right? So it's funny to me. It's funny to me how people like jump into this like crazy, someone said here, like a trend, right? Or like they just bandwagon into this kind of elements, when in reality that's not what the industry needs or what society needs or whatever. That's another thing. Like, if you go outside, guys, like literally go outside, meet people in the streets, and ask them, oh, what's your opinion on cloud coding and the you know, like the way AI is affecting our jobs. If the person you're talking to is a very like normal guy who just, I don't know, sells fruit, right? He doesn't care about AI. AI is not going to change anything on his like work or anything, right? So we are in a bubble right now, the industry, right? Like, we of course talk about all of these topics because we are like currently or constantly being bombarded by all of this kind of information. But if you actually take a look at the world, like there's a lot of like people who don't give a shit about AI. They're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, man. Because we can be discussing about, oh, generative models and 3D, and people who are not into the stuff that we're doing, again, they don't even know about what this is, right? So we do need to be, again, like that's why I would tell you guys, don't fall for that sort of like fear and like, oh, AI is taking over. We are bombarded by this information, and yes, I'm not saying AI has not affected our industry. It definitely has, but the point is that there's so many other things out there. Believe me, that this is like, I think we're giving AI way more power. It's kind of like this imaginary monster that we're giving way too much power and way too much attention and way too much energy and time, when we shouldn't. We just shouldn't. I hope AI simplifies your topology workflow instead of what we got are a bunch of useless generative AI. Yeah, that's a good use, I think. There might be people who don't agree with you. There might be people who are like, no, I personally, I love doing retopology. Like, if I got hired to just do retopology all day, I'll be happy. But I understand if someone doesn't want to do that, right? It saves so much time when clients can show us what they want rather than describing constantly. Yeah, exactly. Again, there are tools. There are tools. There are things where AI can be helpful, and I think there are things where AI can definitely make us a lot more efficient in some specific pipelines or some specific like workflows. We just gotta be careful about it, right? Like well, not careful. What would be the word? Responsible. I think that I know it's a very heavy, well, not heavy, but it's a relatively dense word sometimes, because it sort of like crashes with where AI gets its information from and stuff, right? We just gotta be a little bit more like mindful about or vocal. Like I do think defending certain tools is worth it, and defending certain processes, like some traditional processes, like explaining. Like I think if we like one issue that we're having as an industry and as a community is that we are just being very vocal about, hey, I don't want AI, I don't want to use AI, I hate AI. Sure, I share that sentiment. But how can we sort of like find, let's say, a middle ground, right? Like maybe compromise a little bit, because we cannot deny that, for instance, the cost of producing games, movies, and everything, it's ballooning up quite heavily. So if there are certain tools that we can use to offset a little bit of the cost, that helps everyone. Why? Because it allows studios to keep the lights on. It allows studios to hire more people. It allows studios to create like cool things, right? With a bunch of talented teams. While we don't take away the creative licenses, like that's how I feel like it's a very nuanced conversation where we need to be mindful that there is benefits on using AI for certain parts of the process, for certain things, as long as they do not, of course, take away from the artistic control and from the artist's like livelihood. It's a complex one. It's a really complex one. Let me save this as... let's see. Meeting best villains into OpenAI. OpenAI spends billion. Oracle bits. Yeah, it's weird, man. It's like a circle. I agree. Ethical AI, like one that turns an image or video into a normal map. No plagiarism there. Yeah, again, it's a very complex discussion, because technically, if you don't own the image, that could be considered like stealing as well, right? Like even if you take like let me give you an example. Let's say I need a hard surface detail, right? Like, so if I look hard surface detail, right? And there's people who sell this kind of stuff, right? Like all of these normal maps and alphas and whatever. Let's say I look for a tractor bent, right? Something like this. Technically, I could ask an AI right now. I can drop this into Gemini and say, hey, take this image right here, like this one right here, and convert it into a height map, right? So that I can like project it with displacement map or whatever. Is that right or wrong? Because we've been doing that, right? As artists, we've been doing that for decades now, where we take an image and use it as an alpha or use it as whatever. But technically, I don't own this image. So is the process of me taking this image, changing it, and then using it for a product that I'm eventually going to be selling, stealing? Should I buy the rights to this image? Someone might say, well, then just model it from 3D. Same thing, right? Like, this is not my image. So I'm taking a design that someone else did, an engineer probably, and I'm making it. That's where it becomes, like, the line becomes blurry. And I'm not defending AI. Let's be perfectly clear with this. I'm not defending AI. That's why, again, I'm saying, hey, like, there are things. Because if you mentioned that Kadia Music, Kadia Music, I agree with you. I agree that maybe using an AI tool that takes an image and then generates a displacement map for me to use as an alpha, it's amazing. It's great. But there's going to be people out there that are like, oh no, because that AI also trained on thousands of like images and height map information from someone else, and it's stealing. Right? But at the same time, we cannot go all the way back and be like, okay, I need a bend for a tractor. I'm going to design the vent. I'm going to model it. I'm going to create the displacement. I'm going to create the height. Like, that's going to take me a full week just to do something that could take me 10 minutes if I were to do it with something like this. So it's a weird conversation. And there's people who are really sort of like purist about this. Is like, no, you should do every single step of the process. And there's people that are like, no, that they're just like tools at the end of the day. Let's see. So grateful for auto riggers. Yeah, there's riggings that do that. Do you think companies are waking up a bit? I do think that companies are realizing that people don't like AI. and again, I was talking about this yesterday. I don't want to do this, man. It's freaking giving them like free advertisement, right? but I'm gonna do it. Just don't support them. Like, this is one of the brands, right? Like Tripo. And I was going over this with one of my students yesterday, and I told him, do you really like what these companies are like producing? Like, if I show you like this guy right here, right? Like this model. Like, do you think this is an actually cool character? I don't. Feels absolutely generic. Like, there's absolutely nothing interesting about this character. Is the sculpt good? Sure. There's detail to it, right? Like the wrinkles and the folds and everything. But it has absolutely nothing that a good 3D artist cannot do and do it in a better way, right? And of course, if we take a look at the freaking like topology, not sure if we can see it here. It's gonna be absolutely difficult. Like this is not something that you can use for a video game. Like that's another thing that I'm really like angry about AI. The fact that a lot of people who are not into the 3D pipeline, they don't understand the 3D pipeline, they think that this solves their issue. This is absolutely nothing. If you need a statue in your game, sure, boom, there you go. Like that works as a statue. But if you want this to be an actual playable character, you can't even start with this. Like, it would take so much time and effort to properly pose this character, fix the cloth, fix the sculpt, retopologize. Like, there's so many things that you're gonna have to do in order to make this into a workable piece of 3D, that it's just more like cost efficient to do it from scratch. Yeah, this is AI, but again, I'm not surprised, Ice Wings. Like, I know if you're learning or if you're a beginner, you might think like, oh my god, this is so good. It's not good. It's not good. Why is this not good? First of all, the wrinkles make no sense, right? Like, some of the wrinkles are going in the wrong way. This bundling here right there doesn't make sense. This thing pointing out should be falling down. Like, look at this, like 2 layer. Like, look at that stitching. Would you consider that to be proper stitching? That's not. And it makes no sense. It goes nowhere. It's supposed to be symmetrical, but it then goes to the front of the hood, and then it stops right here, and then it stops right there. So, what about in 10 years? How is this thing going to improve in 10 years? If it doesn't understand what we need, right? Again, this is not usable, guys. You cannot use this in a game. The only thing you could use this for in a game is if you want to have this as a statue somewhere. That's it. And believe me, people are already using this kind of stuff and doing like photogrammetry and other things with it. So yeah, it's not. I've seen the smart mesh. Believe me, guys. I'm telling you, I get emails with all of the new features and some insider information of the kind of stuff that they're working on. I've seen the stuff. It's not. It requires so many more changes than you might expect. And I'm gonna give you another example. Let's say this guy right here, which is a more sort of like generic golem character. I can tell you, the textures don't look that bad. Like, they look interesting. If this is like a golem character in a game, sure, it works, right? First of all, this is not in proper APOS. It does not have proper topology. But even if it did have proper topology, imagine your art lead comes in and says, hey, we don't want that head anymore. We want this other head. Or we don't want this proportions anymore. We want this other change. Or the concept artist just changed things. Again, there's even design things that don't make sense. Like, what the hell is that little stone right there? Right? What the hell is that little stone right there? So, in production, one of the things that you figure or find very, very soon is that changes are necessary. That's why a lot of the tools, Zbrush, Substance Painter, Blender, Maya, this is why all of these tools are built with the ability to be able to iterate and modify things so that they match exactly what the client or the production needs. If you're just gambling away with tokens and you need to constantly be changing, and every time you do it again, it gives you a slightly different result, and a slightly different result, and a slightly different result, like, you're not getting anywhere. What's going to end up happening is your client's going to run out of tokens and be like, okay, well, yeah, whatever. Like, that's what we want. Or we're going to have to roll with that because we don't have any more tokens to keep, like, getting to the perfect one that we have. Instead, with the traditional workflows, right, with traditional effects, yes, you are going to have to spend time doing those changes, but you can get exactly to the result that you want. Exactly with what the director wants. Can you check this one and comment this one? I don't think we can share links, man. But I know what you mean. Like, I know what you mean about, like, topology. I've seen topology. if there's one industry that I would be really worried about with like all of this generative AI stuff, it's 3D printing industry. Like if you are someone who does 3D printing, you like there's people are just gonna like destroy you there because things like this, right? Like if I need like Batman, right? I can just say, give me a pose of Batman fighting the Joker, blah, 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 and I get a really nice looking like sculpt, right? And I can 3D print it and sell it, sure. I just don't find this exciting. I don't know who does, man, honestly. Like if you are watching right now and you honestly find this like models exciting, well, I guess the market's gonna talk at the end of the day. I'm still gonna fight for traditional sculpts, but none of the things that I'm seeing right here feel unique. None of the things that I see right here feel interesting. Like I would rather go to the contest and see some of the submissions, even if they're not the top submissions. And I'd rather see that kind of stuff than this. Like this just feels so soulless, so generic, so. It's the same stuff as the NFT things, right? Like when people were doing, you remember that? I found that hilarious. NFT, right? Like people were paying thousands and thousands of dollars for this kind of stuff. Why? Like I don't think anyone can really tell me this is cool, this is artistic, this is. It's personal preference, I guess, at the end of the day. With art, we see that with modern art as well a little bit in some in some scenarios. I'm just saying, guys, if you like art and if you like 3D, if you like games, if you like movies, I don't think you will find the enjoyment in having a machine give you jinx, in this case, right? Compared to you actually learning how to do it properly. Look at that. And yeah, someone might say, oh, in 10 years, this is going to be perfect. But then you don't enjoy the process. You don't enjoy art, really. You just want to see a pretty picture or a pretty sculpt. But you don't enjoy the actual sort of like things that go into it. And if there's one thing I can tell you, and you guys are definitely going to agree with me, the things that are able to survive the test of time become timeless. Games, movies, TV series, products, toys are the things that were made with that artistic intention in mind. That's why we remember so fondly the first trilogy of Star Wars, because it was a passion project, right? Of course, there was a lot of money involved, but people poured their souls and their energy and their life force into it. The latest trilogy, we saw the problem of not having a good direction, right? Like having like so many discontinued things from one to the other. And I don't think anyone can argue that the newest trilogy is better than the older trilogies. It's just not the case. Older games, like that's why we can still play games like freaking Wind Waker. One of my favorite games ever. And both the art style, the direction, the story, the gameplay, everything was so good, right? And that's why games nowadays, even if they look super, super pretty, if there's no like actual soul, heart, energy in them, they don't survive the test of time. Yeah. Let's see. Is the YouTube chat connected? There's an Indian guy asking whether he can buy the courses with rupees. Oh, thank you, Strangy. No, we don't have the option to buy courses with rupees. So the two types of payment processes that you can do for any of the courses, it's PayPal and Stripe. And with Stripe, I do believe you can use like any card, like it's a little bit more open. But no, it's only PayPal and Stripe. I do accept now Bitcoins. So if you want to make a transfer, just send me a Discord message and I can send you. I'm doing like USDT, I think it's called, and like we can do that. Like no one has bought a course that way, but I work with a student with mentorships and he pays me that way, and that's fine. So that's another option. Let's see. Pedro says, I disagree. I work with miniatures and there are things like making seamless cuts or optimizing for predictive. Yeah, no, definitely. I agree, Pedro. Like I maybe let me rephrase that about like 3D printing. If you work with miniatures for a board game or for a specific product and you have pipelines and specific needs and stuff, yeah, AI is not going to be an issue for you, really. I meant more for people that are like, oh, I'm going to buy myself a recent 3D printer and I want to print things and sell them to like my close friends and locally, right? And you get a commission of someone telling you, I need a Stitch holding a cup. Well, now as a 3D artist, you're not going to be able to look at that AI not being able to figure out hair properly. You're not going to be able, like, it's going to be difficult to compete because AI will be able to produce this slop right here that like manages to fulfill what someone who doesn't know about 3D modeling wants. And sure, like, I know that if I print this and I give this to my kid, she's going to love it because she loves Stitch, right? So she doesn't care. But it's someone that's only going to be able to pay you $5 for it, right? So that's the 3D printer like part of the job that I'm worried about. Like people who only do commissions or who only do like fan art stuff. Like if someone knows how to use AI, they're going to be able to just like completely overtake that part of the business. But yeah, no, for more specialized things like what you're doing, definitely going to be a different situation. If I remember correctly, you said that you were working on a new course. When is that coming out? Oof, still, like, we're working. It's a surprise. I cannot, like, give away too much. Hopefully soon. But as you guys know, I like to make sure that whatever we're producing something, we do it with the best possible quality. Make sure that you get the best possible information. So if it takes longer than usual, just trust me. Trust me that I'm doing it because I want to make sure you guys get the best. I stop arguing with people who use it. There seems to mental issue. Yeah, and I agree. Like there are a lot of people who it's impossible to discuss. Believe me, as a content creator, I know when a comment is asking a question like nicely and properly because they do want to like learn something or have a conversation, and when people are just being trolls. I've mentioned this before. Again, we need to be mindful about AI. Like, if I could ask you guys to do something AI related, is when someone mentions AI, don't immediately dismiss it. Listen to what they're saying. Make a judgment out of whether that thing that they're like talking about or mentioning might be worth for our pipelines or not. And if it's not, and they don't want to like understand the reason why we don't think it's going to be a good tool, just leave it, right? Like there's no need to further discuss that. But there are going to be tools out there that will be using AI. Every single software is including AI somehow nowadays. Maya will do it. Maya is doing it actually already. Adobe is doing it. Like, again, we are going to see that happening more and more. So I think it's also important for us as artists not to be completely closed to every single option out there, because there will be things that AI will help us with in our process, but not replacing the artistic side, not replacing the creative. Autodesk Studio is making a 360 turning to AI. Yeah, they are doing, like, there's a bunch of tools that are doing that. There are a bunch of tools that are doing that. I believe original 3D art IP is pretty safe. Yeah, definitely. Even if it was perfect right now, I think people will still prefer something human-made. Yeah, that's another thing. Like there will be a division, I think, in their in the future, where the market will decide at the end of the day, right? Like, and that's another thing that I tell you guys, like, bolt with your wallet. Like, if you don't like something and that something is using AI, be it a game, a movie, a series, whatever, well, don't consume it. Simple as that. If investors see that the money that they're investing into AI is not like multiplying, right, that there's no return of investment, then at that point it's very easy to make the decisions like, okay, let's not push AI because people are not engaging with this. They're not liking this kind of stuff. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Do you think if someone is a self-taught 3D game modeler could get real work in a real company as a generalist? Also, that question is plasticity we're learning. I haven't tried plasticity. We were talking about that earlier today. I haven't tried it. I really want to try it, but I haven't had the chance, to be honest. It is possible to get a job as a self-taught 3D journalist. Like, definitely possible. It is tricky. As you know, the market conditions right now are definitely not ideal for anyone, by the way. Like, not only self-taught people, like even people who go to school. Like, the situation is definitely I wouldn't say critical, but definitely tricky. Yeah, again, Braxter, it's fine. Like, I know I'm not seeing them all right now. I think these are conversations that we're having. And these are conversations that we're having with everyone, right? So if you're in the studio and the studio is incorporating more AI, you should have a conversation and be like, hey, is this what we want to do? Are we okay with this? Are we fine? Cool. Let's say the studio agrees and the artists are on board and they're like, sure, using AI in this way, we don't mind. Awesome. Move forward. But then you as a studio or the studio is going to need to have a conversation with the client. And the client's also going to have to tell or to communicate whether they agree or not with that kind of stuff. Right? It's a complicated thing. Job is better or freelance? It depends. It depends on what you want. That's a life decision that you're going to have to make. Personally, I really like doing freelance stuff. I find it enjoyable. And I find I have a lot of control about a bunch of different things. Some people don't like the variance in freelancing, right? The fact that sometimes you can go several months without getting the payment or a job or a lead or whatever. Some people like the safety of being hired in the studio, but nowadays, as you've seen in the last couple of months, there's no safety anymore there either. So studios are closing left and right every now and then. So you could be hit with a layoff, and that's also very scary. So yeah, it's a question that you are gonna have to answer for yourself. I think they're gonna wake up like in the IT industry with cloud. We migrate everything back to on-prem. Doesn't work out. Yep. The question is how long it's gonna take. That's a question that it's quite unfortunately gonna take some time. Yeah, exactly, Sam. Both things have risks. Anyway, guys, that is gonna be pretty much it for today. Had a good time. A lot of like clean hard surface modeling. So for those of you that just arrived or arrived at the last part of the process here, what we were doing is this. So this is an armor piece that I was working on a couple of weeks ago, and we went through the cleaning process, right? So we're preparing this for a cleaner approach, a cleaner process, and making sure that eventually this thing can be like textured properly. So that's it, my friends. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if we're going to continue with this in another stream. I just want to show you some of the retopology tools. Maybe on some of the other streams we'll do some new things, new processes or whatever. I'm definitely going to continue working on this. I like it, and I don't think I have something like this in my portfolio, so it's probably going to be good. But that's it. I hope you guys have a good weekend. I hope you guys get some nice rest. Make sure you do a little bit of 3D if you can to keep practicing, learning some new things. And as always, don't forget, always learning, always improving. Give us a like, share, subscribe if you want. Help us get to that next level here on the channel. We're getting really close to 100K subscribers. And yeah, got nothing else to add, my friends. Love you guys. Thank you so much for all your support. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, David. And again, don't forget, always learning, always improving. I'll see you back on the next one, my friends. Bye-bye.